Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Adrian Novotny. I'm a professor of anthropology and sociology here at Long Beach City College, and I want to welcome everybody to the spirituality panel today. We are blessed to have 5 speakers, first time we ever had 5. And this is our, I think, 8th or 9th spirituality panel. It occurred to me some time ago that what should be going on in a college is that there should be opportunities for you to hear about other perspectives, other views in a non-hostile, non-competitive format. You know, at first, like what you often see with religion is debates, you know, where people often get very angry toward one another. I didn't want that to happen. I hope you agree with this format where it'll be explained to you by our MC, who's I'm going to introduce in a moment, but the speakers will have 10 or 15 minutes to present the highlights of their belief system with no interruptions, no questions, no comments, and the rest of the presentation procedure will be explained to you in a moment. Once again, welcome, and I wanted to say for the 2 classes of mine that are here, or several classes, I'm going to pass around roll sheets, so you know, make sure you sign in and get credit for being here, and remember that you're eligible for extra credit if you write up this experience. So thank you all for being here, and now I would like to introduce, I want to thank the 2 clubs that I sponsor, the Anthropology Student Association and the Pagan Club. Many of the members of those 2 clubs are here today and are helping with this program, and I really appreciate their effort to help people to better understand spirituality. So hope you enjoy the program. And now our MC of the day is Angie Bolton, who's been in the clubs for several years. She served in various capacities as officer and so on, and she wanted to MC today. So let's have a warm welcome for the panelists and for our MC.
Welcome to the 2011 Spring Spirituality Panel. The rules for our panel today is the panelists will be drawing a number through 1 through 5 for their speaking order. Each panelist has 15 minutes for an uninterrupted presentation. After each panelist has spoken, we open the floor for audience questions and comments. Members of the audience are limited to 1 minute to present their comment or question. Questions may be directed to a specific panelist by name or to the panel in general. Any questions regarding this procedure? Okay. And now, our first presentation is for Soka Gakkai with Steve Saito.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to this panel. I was very excited but very nervous. I wasn't gonna write any notes, but since so many eager learning students, so I decided to write some notes so that I will keep track on what I wanted to say. Place in India, 3,000 years ago, young Shakyamuni, born in the son of a king, and sneaked out from the castle because he doesn't know anything else. He really wanted to see the outside of the castle. He sneaked out of the castle, then found out there are so many ordinary people are suffering from many kinds of troubles, including relationship, financial, illness, and aging, and so forth. So he decided to move out from the castle to search for a solution to this problem. And he has done many different practices, including meditations. Probably you may have heard something like not to eat for 1 month, 2 months, and stay in the mountain alone, maybe try not to communicate with anybody in society and so forth. Then finally, he found a solution to this problem called he teaches in the Lotus Sutra. He wrote this Lotus Sutra about 28 chapters, and in it, he told everybody is equal and has freedom. And at the time of India, as you know, there are so many curses and so many discrimination. So the people give up on raising up their life to any other level without dying or going to the next level of life. And but Shakyamuni said, no, you can become happy as equal as any Buddha as you are. So that was Shakyamuni then. And one of the monk in Japan, called Nichiren Daishonin, I just wanted to quote his writing, quote, "If you wish to free yourself from the suffering of birth and death, you have endured through eternity and attained a supreme enlightenment in this lifetime. You must awaken to the mystic truth which has always been within your life. The purpose of this Buddhism is free from these fundamental sufferings: birth, aging, sickness, and death. And also to enable human beings to achieve true happiness, and above all, to establish the world peace through individual happiness." 13th century back in Japan, this Nichiren was born as a son of the fisherman, and did not understand why so many people were suffering at the time of Japan, because there are many temples, shrines, Buddhism, different philosophies going through many people, but yet everybody is suffering from it. So he decided to study all the Buddhism, including Shakyamuni Sutra. And he found out Shakyamuni Sutra is the supreme law of above the among the other Buddhism. And he also found out there's a hidden teaching Shakyamuni did not teach, which is to chant the word of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. This is the law of the universe, and by chanting this word of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, he found out there is the way to tap out the hidden potential that everybody possesses within their life. And also he teaches us, he also left the object of devotion as the Gohonzan, and by chanting the word of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo to this object of devotion, we are able to tap out the hidden potential. 1930 in Japan, Tokyo, named Tsunesaburo Makiguchi, an educator, and Josei Toda, also educator, and discovered this teaching of Nichiren after 750 years, and find out this is the law and teaching to make the people happy and help people happy and achieve the world peace. So they revitalized this Nichiren Buddhism in the modern world. 1960, in Hawaii, USA, Daisaku Ikeda, educator, poet, founder of Soka education system in Japan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, and US, came to Hawaii, first introduced this Nichiren Buddhism to America. And people start chanting from Hawaii. 2011, in past 8 years, this Nichiren Buddhism spread through 192 countries and territories. I'd like to explain the essence or the major concept of the Nichiren Buddhism concerning the life conditions. Nichiren Buddhism teaches there are 10 states of life conditions. From the bottom, hell, extreme suffering; hunger, which is greed; animality, which is instinctive behavior; anger, self-righteousness; tranquility, like humanity; rapture, called heaven or temporary happiness; learning, self-reflection; absorption, which is realization; bodhisattva, which is caring for others. At the last, Buddhahood, the state of enlightenment, but not the Superman. As you know, Buddha, there are many Buddhas, but we call Buddha means an enlightened person. And Nichiren defined the law of the universe, of life, or life as Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, so that we can actually harmonize our lives with the universe. Then bring out courage, wisdom, and compassion. And Nichiren also further explained this 10 states of life also exist in our life, but each state of life exists other 10 world, 10 states of life. In other words, even though you are in a hell condition, you still possess the other 9 worlds. This indicates the potential to become Buddhahood, even though you are in a hell of suffering. The hell, for instance, is like you have a toothache, and it's so unbearable, then you have to go to the dentist. Until then, your wall becomes the size of a tooth. That is the hell. And if in the world, the hell is like a war, Iraqi, those Middle East, there are many places that are suffering from those wars, and hungry and so forth. That is also a picture of the hell. And this mutual possession of each 10 states, early teaching of Buddhism, they did not have that. They are separate. Therefore, each person cannot move over to the next level. And Nichiren teaches each state contains all 10 worlds, then no separation between Buddha and ordinary people. And also Buddha is accessible to anyone and everyone, and everything becomes a source of growth. Even the suffering of toothache or the hell become a means to empathize the others. Hunger also becomes desire for peace. Animality promotes gratitude for others' support. Anger becomes like anger for justice. Therefore, Nichiren really teaches us though negative conditions or your state of life can be used to grow your life condition. And also, I'd like to talk about the very common subject of karma. I think you have heard the word of karma. And as you know, the future is unknown. What is our destiny and what caused it is so questioned. And Buddhism explains destiny through the concept of karma. And karma originally means action. Every thought, words, and deed is a cause which creates an effect. For instance, if you work for 5 days, next week you get paid for 5 days. But if you don't work for 5 days, you don't get anything next week, though you really wanted to have one. And we create our own future and destiny. One quote said, if you want to understand the causes that exist in the past, look at the result as they are manifested in the present. And if you want to understand what result will be manifested in the future, look at the causes that exist in the present. This karma is based upon eternity of life. Therefore, past, present, and future are all connected to each other. However, most important time of those 3 times is present, because present determines your future. Also, present is manifesting what you have done in the past. In the destiny, some people give up on changing your destiny because, oh, this is not something that somebody else made. It is easier for us to blame somebody else, but actually, when you look around, it is usually caused by yourself. Therefore, it is easy for us to change your destiny in the future, because change what you do now. Change what you think now, and change what you do now. Therefore, Nichiren Buddhism really found out then what is the best cause that you can make to change your future for the best is to chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. And in chanting, it contains 3 actions: by sitting in front of the object of devotion. That's the deed. And chanting is the word that you are speaking. Then with the mind, thoughts, that you're really praying for your happiness and the world peace. Therefore, by chanting along, you're able to do the whole three things together. Therefore, you're able to change your destiny in the future. And when you find you create the best cause, you can control and create your destiny. And you believe the best cause is chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, as I mentioned. And in the Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, there's a word called Renge. Renge is the name of the flower, which is the lotus flower, and thought to be the only plant that simultaneously produces both flower and seed pod. Flower is the effect, and seed is its cause. This flower brings forth pure and beautiful blooms from muddy pond water. Just like I came from Japan, and no relatives, no money, I think all the society is so muddy and ruthless. But because of changing my hearts and the courage by chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, I was able to create something out of the muddy pond. Lastly, I want to quote the words from Daisaku Ikeda, who is the SGI Soka Gakkai International President. The Buddhism of Nichiren Daishonin expounds that we should not seek a heavenly paradise somewhere outside ourselves, nor should we seek an emotional escape from reality. The lotus flower of our own lives blooms in no other place than in actual society and in our daily existence. And we have SGI Club in Long Beach City College, and they meet every Wednesday, room E209. If you have any questions, you can attend the meeting. Thank you for listening.
And let's hear it for Steve Saito. Our second speaker is Silver Daniels with Wicca.
Good morning. It's kind of early. I'm here to speak to you about Wicca. And first off, the word Wicca means the word wise. It's an Old English word. And basically, Wicca is the path of wisdom. It is the practice and the nourishing and the absorption of wisdom. And this wisdom is discovered and found inside the natural cycles of the earth, within the cycles of the way the moon moves, the way nature grows and the way it moves and the way it changes. All of these things have lessons. Wicca began back in the 1930s. Although its practices and its beliefs are based on pre-Christian, ancient pagan beliefs, the actual religion of Wicca is very new. And it began back in the 1930s in England, around the time that the Witchcraft Repeal, Witchcraft Act, the law against witchcraft was removed. And so from that point on, Gerald Gardner came out and spoke publicly about Wicca. And he let the public know that witches exist and that we are here and that this is what we do. We don't eat babies, we don't worship the devil, and we're not going to eat your cat. So, but beyond that, he gave people and he shed some light on the spiritual aspects of Wicca. And I say Wicca, not necessarily witchcraft, which are two different things. Wicca is a religion that embraces the practice of witchcraft. And although they are used interchangeably, they're not always the same thing. Wicca is a religion, the spirituality. Witchcraft is the art or the science, using natural energies and natural laws to create a specific effect or change. And that's used by way of oils and herbs and different other ritualistic practices. Wicca is, in Wicca we have the goddess and the god. And the Wiccan view of the divinity or the divine is viewed as both masculine and feminine. because nature teaches us that you need both masculine and feminine aspects to come together to create. It is that union of the polar opposites which life is born, which creation can come about. And so in Wicca we call the masculine aspect the god. And he represents all things that are wild, that are mighty, that are fiery and untamed. And then you have the goddess, who represents all things that are nurturing, that are soothing. She also represents wisdom, and she represents protection. And from these two opposites, you have them, you bring them together, and that's when you come about with the whole of the universe. In Wicca, there are different traditions, different denominations of Wicca, Dianic Wicca, Gardnerian, and each tradition has a different spin on the whole, or the core of what Wicca is. And we also have a sacred calendar, which is, well, our calendar coincides with the seasons and the way that the earth moves. For instance, we have what's coming up is the spring equinox. And after that will be Beltane. And there's 8 in all. We call the witch's year, or wheel. And basically what it is just a time for us to connect. Each Sabbath is a time for us to connect to these different aspects of nature. Of Stara coming up, or the spring equinox is time that we connect to growth. After that is Beltane, we connect with the sensual aspects of life. And then after Beltane is the summer solstice, and that's when we connect to the energy, the zenith of life and vibration that is of the earth. And from then on, the year begins to go down, and we start connecting to what we call the harvest. And the harvest times are when we start to connect to the fact that things do die, and that is a time for us to release and to give off and to let go of whatever it is that we are no longer serve us towards our highest goal, or is holding us back from achieving our highest level of enlightenment. There is no hierarchy in Wicca. There is no governing body of, for instance, like a pope or a group of sub-popes that govern what Wicca is and what Wiccans do. Most Wiccans, what's unique about Wicca is that the relationship between you and the divine is your responsibility. It belongs to you. No one can speak to the divine for you. No one can communicate from the divine to you. That is up to you, and that is your responsibility to nurture and to nourish that relationship. There is no concept of hell in Wicca. We believe in what's called the law of return, very much similar to what we're speaking about with karma. We teach that you're responsible for your actions here and now, that there is no scapegoat. There is no outside force tempting you or coercing you into doing the wrong thing or the right thing. That all of that is inside of you. We have the law of return, which states that whatever you send out returns back to you. Any energy that you send out, any action, any thought, any deed or any word that you release out to the universe, it will return it back to you, because all things come full circle. And with that, we also have what's called the Wiccan Rede. There is no Bible or sacred tenet or anything like that in Wicca, but there is called the Wiccan Rede, which basically states, "Add it, harm none, do as you will." And basically what that means is, live your life, enjoy yourself, seek your enlightenment, seek your happiness, but live your life in a way as best as you can to harm none, or to harm no one around you, including yourself. It is a quite impossible creed to live by, because even washing your hands is killing something. You're harming the germs that live there, and that's life as well. But on the larger scope, you want to make sure that you're living your life in a way that flows with everyone else, that flows with the universe, that flows with the energies that are within and around it. And blessed be.
Thank you, Silver. Our third speaker is Adam Kennison with Asatru.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adam Kennison, and I am a heathen. In modern civilization, the word heathen has come to mean someone who's uncivilized or barbaric, but it used to mean the people from Northern European lands. In modern Asatru and other forms of spirituality, we base our beliefs on those ancient spiritual beliefs, mostly based in the Scandinavian and Germanic countries. We often use terms and symbols such as the word heathen that we feel have been misused by other cultures in ways that we know our ancestors would have or did use them. It's just one way we try to reclaim a heritage that we feel was almost lost. And while I would love to sit here and tell you absolutely everything there is about Asatru, that's going to be impossible to do in just 15 minutes, so I'll tell you just some of the major points that I feel are important. Asatru, as it is practiced today, is a modern revival of the old folk religions of Northern Europe. It's a polytheistic, earth-centered spirituality. That means we do not pray to or follow just a single deity. Instead, we believe in a number of deities, each of which are viewed as separate entities and not as specific incarnations of some larger abstraction. Each of our gods and goddesses have distinct personalities and interests. This does classify Asatru as a pagan religion. However, it is different than neo-pagan religions, which may practice some of the ancient practices, but were started within the last century or so. We try to practice as closely as we can what was practiced 1,000 years ago or more, and we base our practices on the myths and sagas from Iceland, as well as literature and archaeology from other Scandinavian countries. Being Asatru means that we follow a race of Scandinavian deities known as the Aesir. The Aesir include Odin, Frigga, Thor, Tyr, Heimdall, and many others that you may or may not have heard of. Our gods and goddesses are viewed as our relatives, and we have personal relationships with them, as well as with the local land spirits, just as we would have a relationship with friends and family members. We honor and try to connect with our ancestors because we are extensions of the strength of our physical and spiritual ancestors. Each of our myths and legends and histories are separate and distinct, each conveying different kinds of information. We don't have a single writing that we base our practices on. We don't have any set commandments on how we should or should not live our lives. However, our literature does impart an attitude on different subjects from which we personally infer our proper behavior. And while there are no commandments saying how we should live, there are moral and situational guidelines that have been laid out based mainly on the writings of the Havamal. These guidelines are known as the 9 Noble Virtues, and those that practice Asatru and other forms of heathenry follow them and try to live their lives as closely as they can to them. The 9 Noble Virtues are courage, honor, truth, fidelity, discipline, hospitality, self-reliance, industriousness, and perseverance. These virtues guide us because we believe that it's through our actions that we will be welcomed into the great halls of our gods and our ancestors. And it's also important to us that when we pass from this world, that we leave a good name for ourselves and for our descendants. As I mentioned, one of our primary pieces of literature is the Havamal. We believe that Odin, being the god of wisdom and poetry, provided us with advice on living, proper conduct, and wisdom in the poetic writings of the Havamal. And while we do believe that it is the words of a God, we recognize, due to the numerous translations as well as the limitations of us as humans to understand what a deity is truly saying, that it is the personal interpretation of all our sources and not the literal meanings that should guide us in our lives. As one of my friends once told me, Austria is the religion with homework. No one will tell you how to be Austria. That is for each person to find through study and personal interpretation of all the sources available. Austria does not have a central figure or governing body. There are organizations such as the Trove and the Austria Folk Assembly that act as organizing bodies. But for the most part, Austria is still practiced as it was originally. Instead of large, nationwide, or global unifying bodies, we practice in smaller local groups called kindreds. Each kindred makes their own decisions on how to practice, such as which seasons, which holidays, who will be allowed in. It's all based on everyone coming together and making a decision as a family. That's why it's called a kindred. But there are some similarities that will be found in most kindreds. These include some of the primary rituals. One form of ritual that we commonly practice is called a samba. This is a ritual toast performed in 3 rounds by passing a drinking horn around a circle or a group of people. Whoever has the horn at that time can say what they want to for each round. Commonly, the first round is to the gods that we worship. During this round, it's common that people will merely say a simple hail to a deity, such as Hail Odin. Some people are more poetic or feel that they have a lot more to say. Again, there are no rules. You can say whatever you want when you have the horn. The only rule that is followed is that you do not hail deities from other pantheons or religions. Stick to your own. The second round is to honor our ancestors and other honored dead. During this round, it's common to hear people talk to or about family members or friends who have passed on. It's also common to hear toasts to veterans and other fallen warriors. The third round is usually left open, meaning people can say whatever they want to during this round. It's common for people to boast about their accomplishments or to hail deities that were not previously mentioned, or to toast anything else someone feels the need that needs to be mentioned. Another of our common rituals is called the bloat. This is a common sacrificial ritual and is most often dedicated to a specific deity or purpose. It is debated if the word bloat is connected to the word blood, as this was traditionally an animal sacrifice ritual. However, today we do not practice animal sacrifices for obvious reasons. Instead, it's common to bless a drinking horn filled with mead, cider, or beer, pass it around to those participating, and at the end, whatever's left in the horn is offered out to the land and to the gods. Like many other spiritual beliefs, we do not have a specific day of the week that we consider a holy day. Instead, we honor our gods every day in how we live. Many who practice Austria do celebrate specific deities on specific days of the week, though, because the days are actually named after the Norse deities. Tuesday is named after the god Tyr, the god of justice and victory. Wednesday is named after Odin, the king and leader of the Norse gods. Thursday is named after Thor, protector of Asgard and Midgard and friend to all mankind. It is debated if Friday is named after Frigga, queen of the Aesir, wife of Odin and goddess of the hearth, or if it's named after Freya, the most beautiful of the Norse goddesses and the goddess of love, beauty, and magic. Sunday is named after Suna, or the sun, and Monday is named after Mani, or the moon. So on these days, we do often pay tribute to the deity the day is named after. But again, there's no specific rule or tradition pertaining to that. As far as holidays, we celebrate many of the ancient seasonal holidays that our ancestors did. Just recently, back in December, we celebrated the seasons of Winter Nights and Yule. During this time, we prepared for the coming winter and celebrated the final harvest. We gathered with friends and family, played games, tell stories, feast, and remember our ancestors and prepare for the coming cold of winter. coming soon will be the season of Ostara. This is the celebration of winter's passing and the return of spring. We celebrate with feasts of traditional spring foods and by coming together with friends and families as the temperatures warm and as we prepare to prepare our fields for the next harvest. At this point, I'd like to share a little bit about how I found Austrue. Just over 3 years ago, I went to a conference up in San Jose, which is held every year, and it has representatives of every pagan faith there. It's a great conference, but after I got checked into the conference in the hotel, I was looking through the program, and for some reason, the Austrue Hospitality Suite just stood out to me, and I had this feeling I had to go there. At that point in my life, I was learning the Wiccan path, but I was still focusing on my work with the Norse deities, even though I was training to be Wiccan. I hadn't done a lot of in-depth studying on the different deities and their aspects at that point. So when I walked into the Austrue Suite, I noticed an altar set up in the back of the suite. Somehow I knew this altar was set up and dedicated to the goddess Freya. I had really never studied Freya, didn't know any of her aspects, but I just knew. And over the course of that weekend, I studied as much and learned as much as I could about Austrue. And by the time I came back home, I had truly felt like I had found my spiritual path home. And actually, the term coming home is something I hear from a lot of people who practice Austrue. When they found it, it felt like they came home, like they were welcome. And I think a lot of that comes from we see each other as family. Our smaller groups are called kindreds, which translates to family. We call each other the folk. We call each other brother and sister. And whenever we have time apart from each other, whenever we come back together, it feels like a family reunion. Like you're seeing family you haven't seen for years, even though it may have only been a couple of weeks you've been apart. Right now, most of you may not have heard of Austrue because we're not a large religion. Right now there's a kindred based in Orange County, another in the Antelope Valley, but there are no kindreds or other groups that I'm aware of in the greater Los Angeles area. As it was mentioned, I do organize a group on meetup.com dedicated to Austrue and other forms of heathenry. I'm also forming a rune study group and a lore study group. And if anyone is interested, please come talk to me today, or if you see me around campus, I'm more than happy to talk about my faith. I also have some pamphlets if anyone's interested. So thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Adam. Our fourth speaker of today is Tim C. with Spirituality of Recovery Programs.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Tim and I'm an alcoholic. First off, I'd like to thank Professor Novotny for giving me the opportunity to come here and share with you today. Everybody here? How's that? One of the things that I want to tell you right up front is that I am not a paid speaker for Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not an expert on Alcoholics Anonymous. The expert of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is explained in our book, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. The program is outlined in the first 164 pages of this. Nor am I an expert on alcoholism, the physiological, the psychological effects of it. What I am is I'm a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous and have been for a little over 17 years. As they read in my little brief little bio, I guess, I've been searching for a spiritual answer for a problem that I didn't even know I had. for my whole life, really. I've studied many religions. I was baptized as a Lutheran when I was very young. But a lot of things got in the way of my practicing any kind of religion. I would look at I would lose the beauty of the forest by the ugliness of some of its trees. I would look for the hypocrisies in religion. I would look for all of the things that, I would point out the people that weren't practicing these things. I also began drinking at an early age, and that started to create consequences in my life that were becoming untenable. At 22, I had my first driving under the influence. My second one occurred at 23. My third one occurred at 24. At 27, I got my fourth one, and that was a felony. At the age of 30, when I got to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, my life was completely unmanageable. I was unemployable. I was bankrupt in every area of my life: mental, spiritual, emotional, physical. My life had been nothing but a series of failed relationships, failed jobs, failed career. I was a college dropout. Basically, the tenets of Alcoholics Anonymous, the program and the steps, they view, in the doctor's opinion in our book, it says that alcoholism is a twofold disease. It's a physical allergy of the body. And what that means is that once I pick up a drink, I can't stop. I can no longer predict my behavior. It also talks about the second full part of it is the obsession of the mind, and this is the greater of the two, in that after sufficient time I can no longer recall with sufficient force the problems that I had the last time that I picked up a drink. And I think that this time it's going to be different. I suffer under that illusion. And basically what we say is that we cannot, of ourselves, we don't have the human power to overcome that obsession. That power must come from a power greater than ourselves. And that's the whole essence of the spirituality of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, from which I guess the rest of the 12-step programs basically sprang. Again, it's a power greater than ourselves. It's not necessarily a religious movement or anything. It's not a religion, not at all. It's not, it doesn't work at cross purposes with any organized religion. I know many Catholics, Protestants, a couple of Hindu, some Buddhists, that are all practicing members of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it doesn't have any, like I say, it doesn't work at cross purposes with any of their faith. What Alcoholics Anonymous as an organization is, basically, it's a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their problems and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We're self-supporting through our own contributions. AA also is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. We don't engage in any controversy. We neither endorse or oppose any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. That's it. Organization of AA is pretty simple. It's more like an inverted pyramid. The groups are at the top, groups of Alcoholics Anonymous. We do have a central service office in New York, general service office. That's comprised of a board of both elected and non-elected AA members. The delegation that we have that we sent to New York are comprised of area delegates that are elected for 2 and 4 year periods. Basically, we're a pretty anonymous organization. That's part of Alcoholics Anonymous, as I say, but we're not invisible. Anonymity means that we do not talk about who we are or what we see in meetings. As you noticed, I didn't identify with my last name. We don't show our faces on film, so they'll be pixelating my face out. We want to make sure that anybody that comes to Alcoholics Anonymous will feel safe, that their anonymity won't be broken. And we don't want Alcoholics Anonymous to be so anonymous that any suffering alcoholic cannot find us. The history of AA, in 1934, a stockbroker, Bill W., had failed at many attempts at getting sober. And he actually did get sober briefly through a group at that time. It was a religious movement called the Oxford Group. And he realized that in order for him to stay sober, that he had to learn to help other alcoholics. And he met up with an alcoholic surgeon in Akron, Ohio, and that was Dr. Bob, another co-founder of AA. And the day of Dr. Bob's last drink is the anniversary day of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is June 4th, 1935. The big book here was published in 1939, and basically we aren't a program of promotion. We don't go out and solicit for membership. I'm not here to pronounce anybody alcoholic or to ask for you to come and join us. We're a program of attraction rather than promotion. Today, Alcoholics Anonymous is about 2 million people in 180 different countries. There are a lot of people that are staying sober as a result of this program. And one of the things that I personally found through Alcoholics Anonymous is a connection with a higher power that today I choose to call God. It's not really patterned after any particular religion. When I got here, I thought God was some sort of a scorekeeper, and that all of the things that I did out when I was out there doing my drinking and drugging, I thought for sure I was going to be doomed to a life in hell. What I've been able to do, though, is put together my own concept of a power greater than myself. Again, I choose to call God. And his connection has actually, not only when I got here to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was immediately provided with his grace. And that allowed me to stay sober long enough to read the program that's outlined in this book, and to begin to apply the steps and the traditions as principles in my life. It has also given me a purpose. Rather than selfishly trying to figure out what I can get and what I can take, now I try my best to live a life of service. Not only service in helping other alcoholics to achieve and maintain their sobriety, but just a service in general. I view my work as a form of service. I view everything that I do as a form of service. The AA traditions are to, well, let me talk about the steps real quickly. The steps are the program of recovery, but it's more than just a program of recovery. It's a way of life. By practicing the 12 steps in my life, I can live free from alcohol or any other mood-changing chemical that affects me from the neck up and live comfortably. And that's something that I certainly couldn't do before I got here. The traditions are principles that work more at the group level, although they can be applied in the individual's life as well, that have kept Alcoholics Anonymous pure and basically kept us together since 1935. Again, like I say, we're a program of attraction, but if there's anyone here who thinks that they may be having a problem, there's a wealth of information out there available on the net now. Our general service office, their website is aa.org, pretty easy to remember. Our local harbor area service committee, which handles the Long Beach, Lakewood area, they're hacoaa.org. And certainly, if you have any questions or anything, either ask at the panel or come up to me afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Our fifth and final panelist member is Brian Campbell with Hinduism.
Om Ganananam Tva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashavashtanam Yeshtaraja Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Arna Shrinvanutivi Siddhisadanam Om Sriman Mahaganadipate Namaha. Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ashmat Acharya Paryandham Vande Guru Paramparam. Hari Om. Open with a small sloka to Ganesh, the remover of obstacles. And then I saluted the long lineage of knowledge that has been passed down from guru to disciple, or guru shishya, which is basically teacher-student relation, which has started with Shiva, has a middle with Adi Shankaracharya, and is currently headed by my own guru. That is the mantra I said. I don't know if some of you have a small printout that I passed out. There's the mantra is on there. Anyways, the Guru Shishya Parampara, or teacher-student duo relationship, is really one of the main foundations of Hinduism, which is actually called Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma means eternal righteousness. However, it doesn't, because Sanatana means that which cannot be destroyed by fire, wind, or water, or any weapons, and exists within you and me and everything that's living and everything that's non-living. So that's a little bit bigger than eternal. So, and dharma can be translated as righteousness or duty or law or different words like that. So Sanatana Dharma is actually the real term for Hinduism. Hinduism is a term, Hindu, it comes from a mispronunciation of a famous river called Sindhu. And when foreigners came to India, they referred to everyone beyond the river Sindhu as Hindu. So no matter who you were or what you were doing, if you lived beyond the river Sindhu, you're Hindu. So that was kind of a derogatory term, which India has accepted, which shows India's all-encompassing nature. India never tries to change other people too much. They rather change themselves and encompass everyone. So that's a little bit about Hinduism. The highest authority for our purposes today, I'll just call it Hinduism, so I don't have to confuse everyone with Sanatana Dharma, is the Vedas, and Vedic religion and Vedic culture. And Vedas are 4 in number, ancient scriptures, books, and they prescribe everything for every aspect of life. Hindu scriptures don't fail to recognize any aspect of life, relationships, how you should live, what you should do, and even the unseen things too, like your ancestors, you know, what happens to your mom and dad after they die. Everything's prescribed in Vedas. So they're very old, very deep, takes lifetimes to learn how to comment on them, so I'm not going to comment on the Vedas, but that's basically the highest authority for all Hindus. We have also auxiliary scriptures like sutras, like Lotus Sutra, Brahma Sutra. I'm sure people have heard of Kama Sutra. It's true, we have all these sutras, and we have Puranas, Upanishads, many, many scriptures. And yeah. I don't know if you have the handout, but I said here on the Kama Sutra, many people think, oh, this is a sex scripture, you know, how to have sex and stuff. It's true. In there how to have sex, sexual positions, different ways, but also it's not only about sex. Kama means pleasure, so it has that all the way to how to arrange flowers when a guest comes to your house. So it's all aspects of pleasure. So there's really nothing that's unmentioned in the scriptures. Even how to arrange your flowers when a guest comes is written in scriptures. I'd like to speak a little bit about the caste system, because I think there's a lot of critics of the caste system. It's a horrible thing, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not going to take a personal stance on it, but it's called the Varna Ashram, and there's basically 4 castes, 4 Varnas. We have Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. So Brahmins are not the highest and the best and most enlightened caste. They're simply the priests and the scholars. They do that kind of work. Next down is Kshatriyas. They're warriors, they're kings, and then this kind of work. Next down you have Vaishyas, or not even down, next up is Vaishyas, who do agricultural work, merchant work, and then the last caste is Sudras, which is the labor caste and craftsman caste. So that's a very traditional system of society which has been existing for thousands of years, and in India today they're trying to do away with it, but it's very deep rooted in their culture, so you can't really do away with something like that. I mean, your family name gives away your caste, and you know, well, I won't comment too much on caste system. I don't want to get myself in trouble. A lot of people believe that Hindus believe in a pantheon of gods and goddesses, and we do. We believe in a lot of different deities, but primarily we believe in one supreme Brahman, which exists within, without creation, everywhere, everything that's never been is everywhere. And that supreme manifests in so many different ways, so many different names, in so many different forms, in so many different countries, all over the world. So every form will lead you to the supreme form. And that brings up a concept which is very prevalent in Hinduism, which is called Ishta Devata. Every Hindu has an Ishta Devata. That means your God. My Ishta Devata might be Krishna, someone else might be Lakshmi, someone else might be Saraswati. So we can never go around and say, oh, Krishna will take you to, he's God and no one else. Because you have Ishta Devata. So every single Hindu has a different God. Maybe some will be the same as someone else, but how you can say one God is the only God? We have that concept of Ishta Devata. I would like to also talk a little bit about karma. Sorry if I'm going a little fast. There's a lot to cover in a short amount of time. Representing 1 billion people is quite difficult. Karma is 3 types. We have Sanchita karma, Prarabdha karma, and Agami karma. And these 3 karmas or actions, which karma is not good or bad. It's not, you tripped and fell, that's your karma. Well, it's not bad or good, it's both. It's just action. There's no positive or negative connotation to it. Anyway, the Sanchita karma is your complete library of actions which you have done in your whole life and your last life, every life you've ever done. Everything that you've done as an individual is represented in the Sanchita karma. Prarabdha karma is everything which has been ripened to present your body now. What you are now is a result of your Prarabdha karma. And you can't escape Prarabdha karma. That's like if you're, I don't know. If there's something that you cannot change about yourself, like you're alive, or you're a man, or you're a woman, or you have black hair, or you have blonde hair. I mean, you can dye your hair, whatever, but that's your Prarabdha karma. That's why you have that. It's because of past, and that's ripened now. And Agami karma is what you're doing today, in the present, which is going to affect the future. So these are the 3 kinds of karma. And of course, Hindus believe in reincarnation because we believe in karma, and this is the, your Prarabdha karma will create your present body. Quickly, I would like to mention the 3 gunas, which are the 3 qualities of nature. You have Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. It's very prevalent in Hinduism. Rajas is a very energetic, activating, fiery personality. Sattva is very pure, contemplative, intelligence, this kind of thing. And Tamas is very slow, dull, inertia, gray, holding you back. So these 3 qualities make up the entire creation. And Ayurveda is helping to balance these 3 qualities so it can give you better health and such things. Quickly, I'd just like to mention the yugas, which Hindus believe in 4 yugas, which are huge, huge time cycles, which control really the destiny or karmas of us all. Right now, we believe we're in the Kali Yuga, which is the lowest of the yugas, a very unenlightened time. There's also the Satya Yuga, which is the complete opposite of Kali Yuga, which is everyone's enlightened. There's no problems, everyone's enlightened, everything's fine, Satya Yuga. And these huge cycles, millions of years, it's all mapped out in Vedic astrology, which can be hours and hours of lecture just on Vedic astrology alone. So I cannot do justice to tell you about Vedic astrology, but there are these huge cycles called yugas. Some common spiritual disciplines in India and for Hindus would be japam, which is mantra recitation, traveling to different temples, it's called yatra, pilgrimage, and doing different pujas and homams, which are different ceremonies that this is what the normal Hindu would do. Lastly, I'd like to talk about yoga, which is most important because everybody knows what yoga is, but actually probably nobody here knows what yoga is. So I feel I have to tell you a little bit about yoga. People always often ask me, do you do yoga? And I just can only smile at that because I'll explain to you what is yoga. Patanjali is an ancient rishi or saint, enlightened master, who synthesized yoga into Yoga Sutras thousands of years ago. And he prescribed the Ashtanga Yoga, which is 8 limbs of yoga. And it's not the Ashtanga Yoga that you heard about .com or I practice Ashtanga Yoga. It's very, very deep. It's basically, it's an entire method of how to become enlightened, not just from exercises you do. So the first step of yoga is called yama. Yama is 5 ethical principles that you have to follow. First being ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. I don't know if I'll have enough time to outline all of them because I only have 5 minutes left, but ahimsa is nonviolence, satya means truth, asteya means not stealing, brahmacharya means purity, and aparigraha means being non-possessive. So that's the first branch of 8 for yoga. So do you do yoga? I mean, we try to be like that, right? Second branch is called niyama. That's 5 behaviors. First one is socha, which means cleanliness. Second is santosha, means contentment. Third is tapasya. Fourth is svadaya. Fifth is ishvara pranidhara. And those basically mean being cleanliness, being clean, being content, practicing austerities, studying the Vedic scriptures, which lead to a study of your own self, and also surrender and worship to God. Third one is asana, which is what you're all familiar with, these postures that you do. Fourth one is pranayama, which is breathing exercises, which aims to control the breath and control the prana in your own body. Fifth one is pratyahara, which means removing the senses from this ever-changing nature of reality. Sixth one is dharana, which is a one-pointed concentration on a single object with your eyes open, like staring at a flame for 30 minutes. That would be called dharana. Seventh is dhyana, which is meditation on single object, unperturbed by thoughts, with your eyes closed. That's meditation. And the last one is called samadhi, which is when the meditation and the meditator become one, and you're undisturbed by all your thoughts. And this is the first level of enlightenment. So all those 8 things which I just mentioned make up yoga. So next time someone asks you if you do yoga, you can just try to remember all those things, and I don't know, you can say yes or no. I mean, we all try to do yoga, I think, but quite difficult. Anyways, for those who are interested, I did recommend a few books on this paper. And in the words of Swami Vivekananda, the first Indian Hindu guru to come to America, about conversion, he said, shall the Christians become Hindus? God forbid, may you be a better Christian. If you believe in Vedas, and if you believe in Hinduism and our scriptures, we believe in the validity of all religions, and we would never try to convert someone else. We would rather try to help you on your own path. So if someone came and asked me how, I want to become Hindu, I would first encourage them on their own native religion, whatever that would be, Christian, Wicca, Buddhist. You should follow your own path. But India has never rejected sincere seekers of truth from outside. As myself, they have graciously accepted me, and I have many gurus who've taught me many things, and I'm glad I could share it with you today. Hari Om.
Thank you, Brian. And now I would like to turn our attention to the audience for questions and comments.
Test. Those who would like to ask a question or make a comment, just raise your hands. And you may make a comment, but please no sermons. You have about 30 seconds to ask a question or make a statement. If you ask a question, you can direct it to one of the panelists or to all the panelists, and then they'll decide, you know, who wants to respond. Maybe 2 or 3 of them will respond. So does anybody have a question or comment?
For the Asatru speaker, how do you feel about how the media and movies currently portray your faith system?
There's actually a pretty significant movement right now, especially against the History Channel, so that we will be properly represented. Way too often we're represented, especially our ancestors, as nothing but barbarians who want to run into a monastery, steal all the valuables, kill everyone, and then run away. Our ancestors were explorers and poets, and we're really, really upset that we're being misrepresented as barbarians and killers when there were so many other positive aspects that people don't know about.
To Sir Steve, I am under an understanding that Buddhism, there's no self. So to have reincarnation of a lack of self, how does that work?
Can you repeat the question again? To reincarnation of?
I'm under the understanding that there's no self in Buddhism. And so I was wondering how reincarnation works when there's no self to be reincarnated. It's just something I'm baffled about.
The reincarnation is so hard to understand because none of us remember. So to understand a little bit of concept by using metaphor, this metaphor really helped me to understand the concept of this reincarnation. For instance, if you get up early in the morning, you are full of energy and eager to do anything in the whole day. Then once whole day gone through, then you're tired, then you're going to bed. Then you become numb. You don't remember anything. So during the process of the wake up early morning, you become birth, you are born, then aging, become sick, then become death by sleeping. But next morning, when you wake up, you carry on the same spirit as you were from yesterday. Though by the time you realize from 1 to 20, because you're seeing every day, you probably not seen any change on you. But if you compare 1 year old you and 2 years old you, there's a big difference. There's a growth or anything in between. But you continue doing wake up and sleep and wake up and sleep. So that's the concept of reincarnation that I have. However, you may not come out as you are man next lifetime, because whatever you have done this lifetime may affect your result in the future. You may come out as a lady next lifetime, a better person or even a worse person. It's all up to you what you do now. That's a summary of reincarnation that I think is. Thank you.
Okay, this is for Steve also. Do you mention something about creating the future? And so, with the rapid depletion of natural resources, do you see the end of our civilization coming soon, or where do you see the future as we move?
Personally, I don't want to see any end of the future, but I think those in science, whoever wants to discuss, I think I'm going to have to leave it up to them. But as a practitioner of the Buddhism, because I believe the life is eternal, therefore there's always a future. But what kind of future I wanted to create is up to me. I want to create the future is bright, optimistic, hopeful, full of dream, and enjoy every minute of my life. To do that, I do anything to practice at this now moment to seek for that happiness. As I mentioned, life is eternal. Therefore, I believe there's no end to the future because life is eternal. There is no beginning at the beginning of this whole life. Therefore, it's always continue. I don't think life is from the point to the destination. I think it's the orbit. That is like a concept of life. So you constantly changing the orbit. Sometimes your orbit is hell. Sometimes you change to a bodhisattva or the learning based upon your life condition. So it changes all the time. So eventually you create the trend of your life, then that trend will determine your future of your life. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to open up this question to all panelists. Just getting on the subject of science and just general, like, scientifically established knowledge, where do you guys blink and where do you differ from science at large?
In fact, Wicca embraces science. For instance, there really is no different from science. As a matter of fact, a lot of what we believe in, a lot of our beliefs, a lot of our practices, a lot of what we consider as witches, science is now beginning to discover, and science is now starting to beginning to validate. And so there really is no differentiations. I think what's going to happen eventually is that religion and science are going to start to merge. I think it's already beginning to happen. And so I think the separation happened at a time when people were trying to fight over, popularity. But I think we're starting to see that that was a bad mistake, and bringing them together to sort of the way they should have been. I mean, there really should have been no separation between science and religion. They should have gone as a whole and supported each other. And I think that's where things are starting to go now.
Within Austrue, we're very accepting of science. I think you're probably thinking the separation between like the creation myths and evolution. Within Austrue, we accept that we were created by deities so long ago that none of us remember. And we accept that evolution happens. It's a scientifically proven fact. So while we may have been created long, long ago, human form and other life forms have evolved since. That's really the only conflict I've ever experienced between religion and science with any form of spirituality I've practiced is evolution and creation. But
Vedas never go against science. Science starts to learn about Vedas. You mentioned evolution. I don't know if you're familiar with Dashavataar, which is the 10 incarnations of Mahavishnu. It basically outlines human evolution. From the first incarnation is a fish, Matsya Avatar. We started in the water. The second incarnation is a turtle named Kurma Avatar, then came to land. Third incarnation is a boar, then we got 4, 8 just goes. The Dashavataar is a perfect example of human evolution. So Vedas, science and Vedas are one. We have no conflict with science at all. We're just happy science is finally coming to the speed of Vedas.
Since every AA member has their own set of beliefs, any conflicts that may arise with science would happen at the individual level. As far as AA as a whole, it would be considered an outside issue, so we wouldn't have an opinion on it.
I think every philosophies and learning has the purpose, and science has its own purpose. I think science is trying to realize the reality of phenomena, and Buddhism or the teaching of religion has also a purpose, is to learn and also realize the condition of life. And I think ultimately their goal is the same, to really serve to the person or the phenomena or the environment to make it better. So we really respect science as well. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
All right, my question is for all of you. Have you guys experienced an altered state of consciousness while you're in your spirituality, and did it change your whole concept on your spirituality? Did it strengthen it, or did it make you change everything and you had to actually switch your spirituality altogether?
I did have an experience like that, and it was at a full moon gathering, a Nesbat, we call it in Wicca. And the experience was so intense. What happened? The experience. What happened? I'm trying to explain it in words because it was all emotions and thoughts. But basically, what occurred was that what I had at the time accepted as reality, or what I thought was reality, literally just shattered into a million pieces. And I was forced to have to pick up the pieces and put it back together on my own. And in that process, you start looking at these pieces and you go, well, this isn't pretty. Well, this doesn't look right, or why did I have this to begin at all? You know, and then you start to put together a much more, a reality that is much more in harmony with just the way that things are on a whole and on a larger scale. You realize that what you had, your perception before was so minute and just so off that that now it is in sync with everything else around you, you know. And what it did was it supported and empowered me within my own spirituality. It gave me a new flash of energy to just go on and to live life in a whole different kind of way. And for that, I'm very grateful both to the experience and to what led me to the experience and what I was able to take from the experience in its entirety.
Actually, just this past weekend, I had a very deep experience. Over the weekend, I was mentoring a girl who was wondering if being a heathen or Austru was right for her. Sunday evening, I started hearing Odin, Thor, Frigga, Freya, Frey, her ancestors all come through. Before I realized it, I had mentally left Midgard and had traveled to Asgard to be with the gods, the goddesses, and the ancestors. And it wasn't until I realized how long I had been talking, because my mouth was so dry I couldn't talk anymore, that I said, I need to go back. And I could feel myself come back through the veil, but I passed through without a problem. And it's just one of the many experiences I've had personally that strengthens my beliefs and makes me know that I am doing what I'm supposed to do with my life.
About 27 some years ago, I was so desperate. I have $200 in my hand. My rent next month is $200. I did not have any job. I was an illegal alien. Nobody wants to hire me. So some leader of this region really encouraged me to chant 10 hours a day. I said, no way. We only have 24 hours. So, but because I was so desperate, I didn't have anything else to do, so I decided to chant 10 hours that day. That 10 hours, from the beginning, I was practically experiencing the 10 states of the world that I have explained to you, from the hell, hunger, animality, anger, all that. About 8-9 hours, my life or the heart started changing from regret, stupidities and anger to something else, which is appreciation, opportunities, hopeful. Then the last hour, the 10th hour, really amazed me, because I really felt there's only between me and the universe. and start having this such a courage and confidence. I don't know where it's coming from. Then I finished the 10 hours, such a wonderful spirit and full of energy. Then next morning, 6 o'clock, my friend called me, asked me if I'm looking for a job. I said yes. Then go to the sushi bar in Garina. So I went there. Then they hired me right away. They became a sponsor of my green card. They pay me every week, so I was survived. That was a wonderful experience. Thank you.
In India, in Vedic culture, and our gurus always tell us to never share personal experiences, because if you do, you might lose them. So, however, gurus who have reached a certain level of consciousness have said a lot of things. So, I mean, I won't say much, but I will just say anybody who makes a serious, sincere inquiry into Hinduism or Indian spirituality, you can't escape a lot of spiritual experiences and consciousness states.
The whole purpose of working the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is to induce kind of a psychic change brought about through like moral psychology. There's a psychologist called William James that talked about variations of spiritual experiences. And the one that I've experienced is more of an educational variety that's been brought about through my working on the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. As far as my concept of the spirituality, my concept of God, it's constantly evolving. We talk about how willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness being the essential tools of recovery. And certainly through open-mindedness, I've been able to take in new information and evolve my beliefs. Thank you.
This is to all the panelists. What obstacles did each and every one of you had to go through to reach the spirituality that you are at today?
I had to hit complete bottom and become teachable. I had to be morally bankrupt, spiritually bankrupt, physically bankrupt, emotionally bankrupt in all areas of my life before I became teachable enough for me to surrender to a power at that time that I did not even believe in, and become willing to take the steps that are outlined in this book and to start believing into a power greater than myself.
I went through a financial problem, relationship problem, divorcing, all that, but I was okay until I come across one obstacle, which is when we found out, my wife and I found out my daughter went through so much depression, and she was a cutter in her counselor's room about 3 years ago. That was such a huge obstacle, because whatever comes to me personally, I think I can bear with it. But when it comes to my daughter or my son, it became so unbearable. And I don't know, as a parent, you know, I can even die for her if she's going to become better. So that really became a spiritual inspiration so that I can chant even harder for my daughter to become better. And 2 years later, she has a cure, then attending the Soka University in Addis Ababa today. Thank you.
I'm glad you asked that question, because I didn't have any obstacles until now. Which honestly, I mean, I've been practicing Wicca for all of my life, for the most part, because of raised around it. So there really wasn't any obstacles. But only recently did I start to discover some obstacles with me being able to even be able to practice my faith. My life now has become so immersed and so busy within the mundane. I mean, I work in marketing now, and I'm a marketing manager. And before that, I did booking agent for a production company, and I was working with acting and modeling, and stuff that allowed me to be creative, and allowed me to use my creativity. Where I'm sitting in an office, and I'm wearing suits, and I'm sitting at a computer and I'm doing data entry. And so recently the obstacle has been, you know, how can I find my connection back to where I once was, my connection to the goddess, my connection to that energy that nourished me for so long. And, you know, I guess after a while you start taking it for granted. You realize, well, you know, I've had it for this long. You know, it's not going to go anywhere. I've had it all my life, you know, and then you realize, oops, you know, you don't have it all the time. And so that is my current challenge, is trying to reconnect, definitely.
There's no real conversion process for Hinduism, so I faced a lot of challenges. Going to India, learning. Hinduism is quite different than here. Here you just say, you want to learn something, you just go to a teacher and say, how much shall I pay you? In India, you have to first be accepted. Maybe they won't accept you. You know, I'll give you $1 million, a lot of gurus will say, go away. You know, you have to be accepted by them. You have to be accepted by the culture. So I did face a lot of challenges being accepted to the culture, and by grace of God, I passed through some difficult challenges, cultural challenges and religious challenges, such as going to South India and wanting to study with Brahmin priests and having everyone say, you're a Christian. You're a Christian, your father's a Christian, you're a Christian, what are you doing here? You know, there's a big culture of impurity and pollution, and having someone tell you that you're polluted and impure just because of your birth is a challenge that you have to go through, which is unfortunately a belief that many Orthodox Hindus believe. So yeah, I faced a lot of challenges, and by the grace of God, I passed through them.
For me to find my way home, I had to first realize I was on the wrong path. I was raised Christian. I was actually baptized Mormon. And there were just aspects of that faith that I didn't feel comfortable practicing. So I left it, and it left such a bad taste in my mouth about all religions that I actually was atheist for quite a while. I believed that there was no supreme power. So I first had to come to the realization that yes, there is a supreme power. Then I had to open myself up to that and figure out, okay, which path do I want to follow? It took a long time because Asatru isn't a well-known path, but since starting to practice, the biggest obstacle I've overcome is just lack of wisdom or knowledge of the faith. People hear me talking about how I practice a religion based on the Northern European, Scandinavian religions, and they look at me and I get oh, you're a skinhead. No, I'm not. I'm probably one of the most accepting people you will ever meet. I love everyone, and it's taken a long time for me to get to that point. So that's been my obstacle.
Do we have any more questions? All right. I'd like to thank our panel members for taking time out of their day to come here and speak with us. And I'd like to thank you, the audience, for participating and coming here to listen. Thank you.